Welcome to the Mortgage Podcast, where we give tactics, strategies, and inspiration to get you to 10 plus loans per month. We talk a lot about how to make a ton of money in mortgage while also being happy and thriving in your personal life. If you want to be a mortgage millionaire, you're in the right place. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Mortgage Podcast. And Veronica just told me I'm a little tongue-in-cheek with this because my title is You Have Zero Resilience. Here's why. It is meant to be fun and poke fun and challenge you. I remember it was a Saturday morning and my phone in my apartment rang when I was in college. And in college at this time, I was working full-time and I was taking 17 units, and I was busy and overwhelmed constantly, and it was just a very busy time. My mom, I know it's my mom because I see it on the caller ID. This is back when we had landlines, and she couldn't talk, and I knew something was wrong. I said, "Mom, slow down." I said, "Take a minute, I'm here." And she blurted out eventually, "Your nephew drowned in your parents' swimming pool." Now, this is before cell phones. This is roughly 1990, something like that. So I proceeded to get in my car to go drive 3 hours with no cell service to see if my 3-year-old nephew, who was named after me, had made it through the drowning. I got to the hospital and my family wasn't there, and the nurses and doctors would not talk to me. So I drive to 2 more houses where I thought they might be, and they weren't there, and I finally found them at the 3rd house. 20 cars in front of the house. And I walked in, took one look at my mom, and I knew he didn't make it. 3 months later, obviously funeral, very tragic. I woke out of bed one morning, and I've been blessed not to struggle with depression, and I definitely had some of that back then. And I got out of bed after about 3 months, and I was going through the motions. I was working, I was getting good grades, I was doing it, but I didn't feel good. And I said, gonna do this because baby Todd didn't get to. Although that's a horrible story, and I don't wish that on anyone, and a lot of people have all kinds of stories as serious as that one. It allowed me to go on and do things, and every time, to this day, something hard will come my way, and I'll say, I get to do this. He didn't. I'm going to do this for him. Sometimes I even look up. To this day, I do that. When we talk about resilience, it is our ability to recover quickly and overcome adversity and continue functioning in the face of trauma and challenge. We all have these things. There is not a person, I don't think, on this earth. Maybe they got beaten. Maybe they were raised by a drug addict. Maybe they were physically abused, which is a nice word for rape. Divorces, lawsuits. The list goes on. I don't think I'm special. I am positive that happens to everybody. And if it hasn't happened, it will. The train's coming, and it's coming your way. Because life is hard. You lose your job. You're like, you know what? Yeah, I was kind of down for a couple of days, but man, I've got a couple of interviews set up, and they actually pay more money than I was making. That's resilience. You're a salesperson. You lose a major deal. Man, you were going to close this. It was right at the finish line, and last minute, it just didn't happen. The whole deal blew up, and, all the time and effort you put into it and the lost paycheck, and you know what? A couple hours goes by, and you know what? You're like, hey, out of my control. Deal wasn't meant to happen. Let me add that thing that happened to my checklist, and let me go call 20 more people, and I'll get another one. That is resilience. You go through a sales slump. You continue to stick to your routine. You continue to make the same number or more calls, and until you come out of this slump, you're asking your coach or your mentor or your boss for help every day because you know you can overcome. You've been in sales slumps before, and guess what? The best of the best goes through slumps. The best shooters in the NBA go through slumps. The best golfers go through slumps. The best business people go through slumps. It's part of it. I've had years, just to be transparent, where I've made more money than I ever thought. And I've had years where I've lost so much money. I'm like, how do you lose that much money in 1 year? That's a slump. That's something that you just got to correct and work on. If you talk to modern this day and age, we're very quick to say, oh, those Gen Xers, those Gen Yers, those millennials, they've got no resilience. They've got no heart. They haven't been through what I've been through. I'm not sure if I buy into all that, guys. I think some people have resilience and some people don't.
I know some millennials that are as gritty as any person I've ever met. I think it's just some people have it and some people don't. Now, I'm not a psychologist, but I believe that some people aren't resilient because they are blaming other people, they're pushing their feelings down. That's where a lot of the drugs, depression, drinking. So one coach said the 10 Ds, and drugs, depression, drinking, like he had this whole list. It says, oh, they got the Ds. I think the D's come from lack of resilience. I mean, that's my belief. Can I prove it to you? Coaching a lot of people, yeah. But unless you've had my experience, you probably, I don't know if Todd knows what he's talking about. I'm convicted on this. So now let me tell you what resilient people don't do. They do not blame. Very rarely will you find a gritty, resilient person blame someone else. Blame the market, blame the government. Matter of fact, these 4 things I'm going to mention, they should be like sirens going off in your head. Woo, 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 woo. Right? Something's off. Blame, for sure. You blame your mom and dad? Not resilient. You blame the government? Yeah, not resilient. You're just scapegoating people. Because it's easier to blame someone else than take responsibility. And listen, it's hard to take responsibility for whatever it is, right? And some things you don't have to take responsibility for. The death of my nephew, there's no responsibility there. It was an accident, okay? But if usually blame happens when I had control over something that I didn't do right. And I'm like, nope, she did it. You know, how many times have you found a divorced couple where they're like, you know, we're about 50-50 to blame? Never heard it in my life. I mean, I've known hundreds of couples that have divorced. So, blame. Excuses. Number 2. Well, I would have, but Todd, you don't understand. This happened. I'm like, okay. I always tell people, like, when they start giving me excuses, I'm like, listen, let me say this another way. If you knew that you had to be, say, on time to that meeting, or I was going to chop your right arm off, would you have been on time? Oh, yeah. If I told you that if you didn't make 30 calls, sales calls today, I was going to chop off your right arm, would you have made 30 calls? Oh, yeah. So stop with the excuses, okay? Number 3, this is a hard one. Oh, especially after COVID. They do not isolate. Isolate is like, let's say that I call one of my salespeople, and because I know they had a bad month, and they don't call me back. That's isolation. When you go home and you don't talk to your spouse about whatever it is, that's isolation. When someone asks you how you doing and you get a fake smile and say, I'm good, that's isolation. And isolation is a sure sign that someone is not resilient. Because resilient people, one of their traits is they ask for help. Now, the last one is also one of the tougher ones. They don't dwell on failure. I use myself as an example because I'm the one doing the podcast. There is all kinds of failure out there. And sometimes people dwell in that stuff. They're like, on the farm, we used to raise pigs. And they say pigs do wallow in mud. They literally wallow in mud. They love it. That's how I think of non-resilient people. Is it okay to take some time and feel your feelings? Yes, normal. When I went through divorce, I had about 6 months. I don't know if I ever told anybody this, but I would drive to work, and right in the middle of my stomach, I never had this in my life, haven't had it since. I had an ache right in the center of my stomach every morning like clockwork when I was driving to work. My theory on this is that was a physical reaction to not wanting to show up to work with everyone thinking, that's my leader, but he's going through a hard time. He's going through a divorce. I wondered if he cheated on her. I wonder if he beat her. I wonder if she cheated on him. I think that was my physical reaction to wanting to isolate and knowing that I wouldn't let myself do it. I don't know if I'm right. It's a guess. After about 6 months, I'm like, okay, time to move. I got another buddy. This is no exaggeration. He actually got divorced before me about a year. This is 8 years after my divorce, 9 years after his divorce. This is no exaggeration. I get him on the phone. I'm like, Bud, why are you sucking so bad? And he's all, you know what, Bud? I'm still struggling with my divorce. And I'm like, you gotta be shitting me right now. That's 9 years ago. 9! I swear to God he said that. I about threw up in my throat 9 years ago. I'm still depressed about my divorce. Holy cow. 9 years ago. I get 6 months. I get a year. I don't get 9 years. I immediately went into therapy. Literally the next week after my ex-wife told me she wanted a divorce. Why? Because I want to get through it. as fast as I can. But man, people dwell. Oh my God, people dwell. I'll have a loan officer lose a loan and they're depressed for 3 days. I'm like, it's just a loan, bud. Move on, go get another one. Like your emotional attachment can't rely so much on something so superficial. Now, do I mean to make all this sound so simple? Yeah, kinda. Sometimes yes, sometimes no. I go back and forth on that. These are complicated issues, but yet they're not. Like, what if something really hard happened and we said, you know what? I'm gonna give myself a day and I'm gonna be pissed off and I'm gonna go punch the punching bag and I'm gonna go have 3 beers and soak my sorrows and then tomorrow it's over. And I mean it's over, no more. I'm not doing it. Some things are bigger than others. God forbid, I have now known 3 couples to lose a child, my brother being one of them. The other 2 couples, one couple got a divorce. I think to this day are still both depressed. The other couple had a child, and it brought them closer. I got to tell you, resilience has to do something with those situations. It's not the only thing. But one couple said, hey, we lost a child, and it just happens. And maybe the other couple, I don't know this for a fact, but maybe they blamed each other. I don't know. But whatever happened, it's what we do with, any one of us. I have two of my best friends have autoimmune diseases in their 50s. We weren't thinking that when we were in our 30s. It just didn't enter our brain. And they both have handled it beautifully. As beautiful as you can, an autoimmune disease that's very serious. 2 totally different autoimmunes, but both serious health issues. Resilience is just one of those things. I'm trying to give you some ideas. I want to read the definition again. Resilience is the ability to recover quickly and overcome adversity and continue functioning in the face of trauma and challenge. Last I looked, there is a ton of trauma and challenge in life. It just changes colors. The subjects change. When I'm recording this, we're now in the tariff challenge, screwing up the economy a bit. Is it good or bad? I don't know, but I know it's very disruptive, and I don't love it. I also don't control it, so I'm not going to spend more than 60 seconds a day on it because I don't control it. That's a whole nother podcast. Control what you can control and don't worry about anything else, right? So, guys, I hope this helps. I hope you see me as being authentic. Like, I go through struggles, for sure. I'm probably better than most at getting through them quicker. I wish I could be as transparent as I wanted on this podcast. I have had serious struggles, but I have a beautiful life. And that canvas called life has emotional baggage and trauma and birth of a children and marriage and death of a father and just has all this stuff splattered on the picture. Whenever God says it's my time, and put that picture up on the mantle and hope that it's a beautiful picture. But no one told me that it's going to be all sunshine and rainbows. I never thought life was that way. When you grew up on a farm, I think that's where some of my resilience comes from. All the animals get killed. You love every single one of them. They all get killed. If that doesn't build some resilience, I'm not sure what does. So all of a sudden you have this beautiful, beautiful pet, this beautiful rabbit. And then a year later, you got to chop its head off. I know that sounds gross. Sorry. But that's what happens. Okay? And you're like, whoa, things change. The pretty bunny is now Bunny Stew. This is crazy. And you got to, as a small child, you have to reconcile death and dying and love and beauty. And there's a lot to it. And it can be very confusing. But I hope some of this helps. The biggest part of this is the blame, the excuses. Don't isolate, don't dwell. Those 4 things are characteristics that you're doing the opposite of what's right for you, what's good for you, and what's healthy for you. Not easy. They're indicators, and we have to figure out a way through asking for help on how to get through those things, okay? If you were struck by this and you think it may help one other person, I would love for you to share it with them. Just press the share button, send it to them right now because you're like me and you will forget. Thank you. Hope you enjoyed. Have a beautiful day.